Well, here we are at the end of Allied Turn 6, which is June 11th. And which is, of course, the penultimate game turn of the 7-turn short scenario. And next turn is when the mulberries are activated at Arromanches and Omaha Beach. And let's see, what do we got? There were lots of attacks. Let's just give us a sort of a panoramic, try and get rid of some of the glare view of what's going on. There we are. There were lots of attacks all along the line. And of course, one of the reasons that this was possible was because the attacks were beefed up by the we've got perfect clear weather, so there were fully 6 air support markers available in total, in addition, of course, to the 4 naval support markers. And yes, they were all used. And generally speaking, there were certainly no, I don't think, any disasters for the Allies. I think generally speaking, they did quite well. And we can see from the disruption markers, of course, where the Germans have had to retreat. So we can see those in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 locations. We just work our way. Let's start down here. The British decided to, because the British commander had taken a closer look at his orders and realized what the victory conditions were, he realized that it was time to attack once again across the river here, or well, attack across the river. I'm not sure if it's again, but anyway, this was done with some success, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to recapture their drop zones, which are in the victory conditions. So they've got that one there. They're after that one. They're looking for that one there, and they're also looking for this one down here as well. I am using the green markers sparingly. I didn't like it. I had too many of them on the board, and I'm using them sparingly to try and draw attentions to victory locations that I might otherwise miss. So yes, forces retreated to here, and these chaps pushed forward. Okay. And let's see, we've basically got a sort of standoff here on the northern outskirts of Caen. There's basically no way that the Brits and Canadians are going to be able to take Caen to contribute to a victory for the next turn. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to continue playing beyond turn 7. We might just see how we did in the short campaign, the short scenario. Not sure. And then let's see, things were pretty stagnant here. That's right, just sort of facing off against the enemy. We had some success. Was there success? No, there was a determined defense there. That's right. They took some casualties, but there was a determined defense in this location. Then we've had some penetration down here. Let's see, what have we got? Also penetration down here, including taking the town there of pronunciation suspect here, Ballaroy, I suppose. Perhaps. Then we've got these 2 sort of strongholds here that are populated to some extent by Panzerlehr. They're both tough nuts standing there, and of course they're also, the key thing is to remember is that they could also decide to up sticks and pounce to try and get through to the Allied beaches or retake Bayeux, this sort of thing. So we've actually got ZOC bonds here rather than mere zones of control. We've got ZOC bonds in plentiful supply, trying to stop any of that nonsense. Then there has been a general sort of movement in this direction to try and push westward from Isigny-sur-Mer, which is right here. We've got Carentan, of course, which was, I believe, taken the previous turn. And they've pushed south. They're standing at the gates of this town here, which is, I suppose, called, let's see, Saint Jean de Day, perhaps something like that. Um, okay, so but we haven't been able to get there yet. German forces retreated to here. Yes, sort of a standoff going on there. We've got the Luftwaffe providing, Luftwaffe forces providing quite a bit of backbone there. Tough nut to crack. And then let's see, what do we have here? We've got these chaps here are, well, sort of more or less surrounded, but they've got some significant, as things go in this neck of the woods, they've got some significant force with them. And then moving up, well, we've got the drop zones here are in our possession, and also here, but they're sitting on a drop zone, so we'd like to evacuate them from that if possible. But of course, big news is what's happening here. This town here, which is Pont-l'Abbé, and also Saint-Sauveur-les-Vicomtes, have fallen to, there's a bit of reserve movement there, I believe, have fallen to the Allies. So significant penetration there. One thing you've got to worry about, of course, is if you overextend yourself, you could be out of supply, but that's not the case. We'll see what the Germans have to say about that. But of course, the other thing is, unless the Germans sort themselves out quickly in the next turn, these chaps are in a position to be able to start hoovering up, as it were, the free towns that are out there, and there are quite a few of them. I mean, look at this scrumptious little collection down here, for example. So we shall see. There are, of course, if we look over to the German reinforcement card, we look at turn 7. We can see that group of fully eight units there coming on, and they're good quality stuff. They're powerful, I should say. They're powerful units. They're not at all nice because they're SS, half of them. And they are going to be coming on mainly, let's see, in the sort of green, or entirely, I think, in the green area, which is down here. So these hexes along this sort of a thing. Let's just double check that. Yeah. So they're going to be coming up from here, heading in this direction. Okay. Yeah, so all interesting stuff. Interesting things kicking in now, where we're definitely getting into combat situations that are beyond the let's get the name right, the naval bombardment zone. So that has to be borne in mind. As we can see, here's the dotted blue line that's running along here. So if I just sort of do that sort of a thing with the pen, so anything in this sort of region down here is not going to get the naval bombardment, but you still can use the air support, of course, making sure that you don't get your attacks mixed up. I can't remember, actually. I can't imagine that it would be the case that the Americans and the Commonwealth can exchange air support. So, in other words, support one another. I doubt if that's the case. I have to check the rule on that. And I did also have a look because I'd messed up. I hadn't messed up. I thought I'd messed up. So I thought, oh, I've got an air support marker that I didn't use. That was silly. Oh, well, at least I can use it for strafing. But fortunately, I was able to determine that, no, there was somewhere I could use it in an attack. Because the thing with strafing is that it can only be used, if I remember correctly, it can only be used, just take a look at the sheet. Why not? Look at the actual rules. Think of that. Marvellous. There we go. Strafing table. Sorry about this. Hang on a second. Try and do it with one hand. Yeah. You can only use it to target silhouetted units, and you get a You get a +1 if they're using strategic movement. You get a -1 if they are on or within 1 hex of a flak unit. But the thing is, you've got to roll a 6 to get 1 step. So, it's a handy, free-form sort of a tool, but I wouldn't count on doing a lot of damage with it. So, yes, generally speaking, use those air support markers. Don't forget them, and use them to get those column shifts going. And one technique I've been using, essentially, is that you know, having calculated the odds all up and down the battle line, I do it all first, and then I actually mark them with markers like these things here. It stops me from going insane. And then decide where the support from the Navy and the artillery, which is very limited for the Allies, and the air support is going to be used. What I tend to do is what on average looks the situation is if you've got sort of like 3-1, then you might sort of think, well, maybe we can get away with that, just leave it alone. I need to use those support where we've got 1-2 or something crazy like that. And you can. The thing is, even if you look at a situation, you've got 1-2, and you might think, well, that's dreadful. But then you might be able to add in, well, I've got troop quality, I've got an armored shift, I've got air support, I've got naval support, and maybe you've even got artillery as well. And, you know, yeah, crazy things can happen. That can end up being like a 4-1 attack or something. So it's all a question of the appropriate employment of one's resources. And I say, here's to it. So that's it. And then we go over now to, well, the final turn of the short scenario. But of course, the key thing is that Germans move first. So that means that the Allies have still got one more turn to press on. I think what I'll do, I don't have time right now, but I'll make a very short little video immediately before I start the next turn to count up and see what the victory point situation looks like now for the Allies. But right now I have to sign off, and I say here's to it. Well, it turned out I did have the odd minute, and so I have totaled up. There are 11 points that the Allies have so far. Those are all from towns that are beyond the naval bombardment zone, each of which is worth 1 point, of which there were, 1, 2, 3. There are 2 points for Bayeux, and all the rest are paratroop drop zones, of which the Allies have them all except for that one there, and also they've got those 2 there that they haven't got. I did make a mistake in the way I was marking things before with the green markers, because I had, for example, I had Carentan marked, but Carentan is on the seaward side of the naval bombardment zone, so no points for that. Then the other significant thing, of course, is that the Allies get 3 points for linking the beaches, which specifically means to have a road running from Sword. So there's Sword. There we go, Sword. Down to Saint-Mée-Église. So we've got that. We could go all the way along the road here. We have to have a road that is free of German units and zone of control. We have it almost, because oh no, wait a minute, is it possible? Gosh, yes, I suppose, because these chaps here, of course, have a zone of control here, so that blocks that. But if we go up this road and up that road and up that road, see, as Elliot Gould said in The Bridge Too Far, I got a side road pegged out. Anyway, so go up there. That means they avoid the zone of control. So that means they've done it. That means they've linked the beaches. That means they've got 3 points. That means they've got 14 points already. So if they can hang on to what they've got, and either increase it or just hang on to it, then that means that they have won the operation. Yes. I'll check the rules and everything and make sure that I've got all these facts straight. But okay. Well, I mean, well done. Okay. I'm going to leave you with that. Well, it's German turn 7. It's basically the beginning of the turn. We're in the movement section. So the Germans have taken their replacement. They only had 1 infantry replacement. It's June 7, which is the last turn of the short 7 turn um, campaign, as it were. This time they did something a bit different with the replacement because they you can bring it on at a friendly town or city, but it has to be if it's not a non-divisional unit, it has to be in the company of or in the region of its own division, unless the division is being destroyed, in which case it can't come on. So the best that they can do was the best that they could do was to bring on these chaps here, which is actually an Ost unit. But the point is that it's just something to try and get in the way. Ideally, it would have been more sort of up around here, perhaps in the wood or something like that, to um, block this unit. But you've got to bring it on at a town or city, and of course, a replacement can only move one hex. So that's where they are. And that's because they were of the same division as these chaps here. The, what is that, the 709th? Yeah. And all I've done so far actually is I haven't moved anything. I've just been looking at possible strategies for the German commander, and it's not looking good. The Allies already have enough points, so if they lost 1 point, they wouldn't have enough. But on their turn, it looks like it's going to be a piece of cake for them to get some more points. And I've been trying to find any place where the German player can wrest back 1 point, perhaps here or there. One way would be to break through to the road, but that's extremely difficult for them to do. There is a possibility here, perhaps, with these. They're not terribly strong, but they're better than your usual stuff. If they leap out of their entrenchments, the allies are thin here, but that's because they know there's not much up against them, and they're in a town there as well, so that's all very jolly. But there's just an outside slim chance that if they were to attack them and then use somehow excuse me use some reserve movement to then attack them and get rid of them and then enter the town hang on then that could interfere with the 3 points that the Allies are getting for linking the beaches along the road. Okay, other places. I've put some red markers out there to sort of draw the German attention to some different areas over here. I mean, as we can see, there are 3 towns over here, and if that unit there was not inhibited in any way, they could move down here and take all 3 of those towns, for example. Alternatively, they could come down here. They could take that town and that town there, I believe. Then you've got this unit here, which can move and would have been able to take that town there if it was vacant. So the Allies seem to have some means to be able to add more points. Now, the thing is, it's clutching at straws and everything, but there are some German units that could disengage and try and get themselves over there. As we can see, there's a unit with a movement, anti-tank unit with a movement of 5 here. We've got these chaps here. They've got a movement of 5. And if they were to use their movement points very carefully, they might be able to get over here and start sort of getting in the way of American units. But again, it's really a question of stopping the Allies from getting even more points than they already have. The Allied commander has done a very good job of having a contiguous either line of, from the strongest places, ZOC bonds, or otherwise just simply joined up zones of control to stop the German getting through. I'd looked at the German commander unleashing the very powerful SS units here and striking north. But the question is, what are they trying to do? Well, the obvious thing would be to try and get through to the beaches and destroy the engineer units at the beaches, which would cost the Allies dearly in their victory points. But the thing is, they can't get that far forward. They could smash them probably and either drive them back into the beach there at Sword, or the beach, not the sea. But then they could follow up, of course, by going 1-2, which would put them there. but that means they have not yet contacted or been able to do combat with the engineers. They could do that if they had reserves that could go that far forward, but the problem there is that the reserve in the reserve movement, like any other movement, they're stopped by zone of control. So if there were reserves here somehow, for example, and they went one, there's a zone of control there, or they went one, there's a zone of control there. So they wouldn't be able to get through to the beach. Um, yeah. So and then of course we've got the very powerful, some very powerful German reinforcements coming on, which is all very nice. But they're coming on down here in the green sector, where I move back a little bit here so the green sector goes this far. So they can basically move north, even the fastest units can move north about as far as Saint-Lô, or I think there is a way up here that you can just about get to where you could be in combat with somebody who was in what is that, Balleroy there. They could get just about as far as to here to get into combat with these chaps here, which is useful, but it doesn't do anything on the points. I suppose. Hang on a second though. Yeah, if you could get to there, defeat them, they retreat, but then of course you can stop in a town on retreating, so they could retreat to there and stop. So that would be a problem. Anyway, doesn't look good for the Germans. It looks like all other things being equal, the Allies currently have the exact 14 points that they need, and it's adjudicated all at the end of this turn 7, at the end of the Allies' player turn in turn 7. So in other words, it's not the case that if they've already got the 14 points, the game is over. It doesn't work that way. So at the moment, all other things being equal, if we get sort of typical attacks with typical dice scores. And the weather is overcast, so at least there's some break there for the Germans. It's overcast 3, so the Allies only have each Air Force only has one marker, so a total of 2 Air Force markers. But yeah, as I said many times, all other things being equal, it looks like what would be likely to happen is that the Allies would simply pick up a few more points. The idea of them losing points seems extremely unlikely, and they would almost certainly pick up a few more points. Because you've also got, well, I suppose the reinforcements can help deal with that. You've also got these chaps here who've got a zone of control gap in front of them. Well, they have at the moment. That's because I haven't moved the German units. So I suppose that could be filled in. Yeah, that could certainly be filled in. And let's see, these chaps here, of course, can go this way. That could probably be filled in, though. Will they reach Villers-Bocage? Don't know. Anyway, exciting stuff. And I say here's to it. Okay, so here we are at the end of the German turn 7, the last German turn of the short campaign. It is June 12th. And in summary, what happened was the German commander realized that he had no way of reducing the points for the Allies, except there was one situation where it looked like there was a possibility, and it was the operation was attempted, the engagement was attempted, but did not meet with success. And that was here, where we had these chaps, and the only way it would have worked would have been to have attacked this unit here and either sent it back to here, or preferably, and with a good chance of destroyed it completely. And then reserve movement would have moved to the unit, the powerful unit, and there are 7, would have moved to here in reserve movement, attacked them, and then if they could have caused them to either be destroyed or make them flee, they would then have been able to move into that hex, which would have, it would have taken the town. That doesn't actually affect the victory points. the key thing then is they would be in the town, and the Allies would have had to have removed them from the town in order to be able to claim the points for connecting the beaches with the road running from Saint-Mère-Église to Sword. But that didn't work. All that happened was they rolled a 1, basically. So all that happened was the Germans lost one of their 2 small units, which were all they could muster for the initial attack. And then beside that, we had large reinforcements, the principal part of which was the 17th SS. And basically what they did was they came on in the green zone, as we've said before. So that's this zone, 4 entry hexes there. And so they used strategic movement, which makes them vulnerable in combat. The attacker will get 1 shift to the right, I believe it is. And they also have to end up in separate hexes, not in zones of control, etc. So they've thrown themselves forward here, here, and here. And the idea there, of course, is, as we might imagine, to provide a zone of control blockage, to stop the enemy from being able to take the towns. And it appears that has actually been achieved. So although this unit here could, for example, move here and attack them and take that town there, that's really all they're going to get, because of the zones of control, they can't get through to these towns here or that town there. And so if we look at the zone of control, we've got the Germans running along here and running along here and running along here. They do actually have a continuous zone of control running the whole length of the theatre of operations. Indeed, yes, they do. They completely. It is contiguous, right? So they won't be able to take those towns, and as it turns out, they should have no difficulty. Although even there, you have an Ost unit, but they are on the other side of a river, so there's that too. And let's see. We've also moved some units that were here, swung around in this direction to be able to stifle American movement towards Vallon up there. Okay. Let's see. This looks as if it's open, but in the end, they were not able to get forward enough to be able to dispute any of the landing zones. Okay. So again, it just tidying up the line. And let's see. Then down here we had more reinforcements coming on. We've got Fallschirmjäger coming on here. And then we also had a strong unit which was able to use the truck movement to get up to Caumont up there, to reinforce there, to hopefully stop the Allies taking Caumont on the next turn. Let's see, we've also had these would be reinforcements that they were able to get to there because fast-moving reconnaissance unit, as we can see, borrowed from the 17th SS, for the rest of which are way over there. But we had to have somebody moving fast that could get from here and get up to that position, so they're there. Other than that, nothing much happened along this line here, except that there was this one unit here, which is the, the 12th SS, and they moved from the western region of Caen, and they have moved up to here to be able to, I've pushed them over so we can clearly see it's a drop zone, so as to dispute the drop zone if the enemy try to take that, because I'm sure they will try to. And then it takes a while to get your head around with this sort of thing, but of course it turns out that this drop zone here is secure, because of course right there is a Zockbond. So, well, no, it's not secure. They can't just move into it. Yeah, right. They could attack them, defeat them, and then go 1-2 like that and take the drop zone. Okay, so interesting. And nobody. Let's see. Anything else happen? Yeah, that was about it. So really, so therefore it's official. The Allies will have won the campaign. So now, if we play, or when we play the final Allied turn, we will just see, how far they got. They can't, far as I can see, they can't possibly lose any points. So therefore, if they just press forward their attacks, we'll see how many more points they can get. And well, as usual, I say here's to it.